Hi, everybody. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanity Evolution Revolution, and we are reading The Storm Before the Calm. And I see your message, Sarah, and that's a bummer, but we'll know you're here anyway. And it's nice, so that's nice. Anyway, when Linda begins to read, Linda, I think, are we starting 18 or chapter 18?
Correct. Yes. So let's just see. Where'd that go? Yeah, we're on conversation 18, and that's on page 121.
Okay. All right. And we had some discussions last week that kind of brought up some things, and we thought they need to be addressed because, well, we just think they should be addressed. I don't think it needs to be said anything more than that, except for Linda's going to address it. Take it away, Linda. And just so everybody knows, I will be leaving my desk temporarily to meet my son at the door of this place to get money from his dear old mom. And but anyway, just so you know, I haven't left the call permanently, but as long as it takes me to get to the front door. Because of COVID, nobody can come in. All right. Linda, please take it away.
Okay. So last week, there was some discussion that was happening. One of the reasons that we waited this long to start today is because most of the people that were involved in the discussion are not here today, which is unfortunate. So we hope they'll listen to the recording. But there were a couple of things that came up that were a little disconcerting. And it really depends on where you are in your news cycles and who you're relying on to get your information as to whether or not you're up to speed on some of these issues or not. The biggest issue was there was a big conversation about the Save the Children movement. And there was apparently going to be a march sometime this past week in Europe. The point that we wanted to make sure everyone listening understands is that movement, Save the Children, actually is an organization that was founded in the early 1900s for underprivileged children that didn't have lunches. That's the Save the Children Foundation or organization. That's what they are. Recently, however, there are other groups and a conspiracy theory group in particular that has hijacked that phrase, added a hashtag to it, and there's two variations. There's a Save the Children hashtag and there's a Save Our Children hashtag. I actually think the Save Our Children hashtag is a result of an event that occurred in Chattanooga, Tennessee, that was very specific and not a part of any of the conspiracy groups, but ended up being hijacked by the conspiracy group as well. So we just wanted to clarify that so that everyone can understand that what this book group is Conversations with God Book Club. We're studying the materials that are written by Neale Donald Walsch. And this book that we're reading was also written by Neale Donald Walsch. It's a part of his Conversations with Humanity group, not God. Basically, much of the conversation that occurred last week didn't have any place in book club. And there's a lot of material available. And at the end of today, I will put into the chat so you can copy them out for later reference. And I don't know how the text works when Nanette posts the videos, but if the text doesn't get posted, she'll put it in the comments. But there's a number of resources in there to help clarify some things. And anybody that is attending this book club and involved in any of those conspiracy theories, we would just like to say they have no place in our discussions. You're free to believe whatever you want to believe. However, that's not a part of what we're talking about here. So just wanted to make that clear. We love everybody. We want everybody to be able to be included. We want everybody to be able to comment. However, the comments need to be related to the material at hand. So unless anybody has any questions or comments that they want to share, we can go ahead and get started reading. Nanette, are you still here? Are you here?
Yes, and I do want to thank you for bringing these things up. We just don't want to be off our track that we are usually on with the conversations with God books. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing I want to mention, and I always forget, and I'm so proud of myself, that is the meditation. We're usually quiet for a couple of minutes after she
Right.
she does the, sorry, my computer's saying I'm not working right. And anyway, so when Shabana does the meditation, we give ourselves a couple of minutes of silence. So wait for Shabana to say we're finished with our moment of silence before anyone starts talking afterwards. And it for me for the moment, and love you all, and I'm glad you're all here. And Linda, you can take it away.
Okay, I will. All right, so we are reading The Storm Before the Calm, Conversations with Humanity, Book 1, and conversation number 18, The Morphic Field, the Tipping Point, and Critical Mass. And hang on just a quick, brief moment. Okay. What is being invited here is a new human manifesto, a declaration of independence for the entire world. What our species is begging for is a new cultural story, a new way of understanding life, a new way of being human. I do not see this new story, however, as some sort of statement of universal understandings that will be proposed to our entire species at one moment for simultaneous adoption. That would simply be another top-down pronouncement from some power source. And who or what could that power source be? Rather, I see this new cultural story as emerging from the only legitimate power source of any enlightened society, every member of that society. I see it as the product of cordial and collaborative interplay and interaction between people around the world through conversations about and persuasive demonstrations of the wonderfulness of the new story itself. I predict that the potential of this collaboratively created new cultural story to produce individual joy and group peace will become self-apparent, and that its adoption by a critical mass of people will become so desirable that this will occur almost automatically. I see this as the last great and the gentlest revolution. Yes, that is a good name for it, the gentlest revolution. I think you're living in a bubble. Imagine that people are going to adopt a new cultural story automatically. People don't do that, man. They got to be practically forced. I'm not sure that's true. Most people usually don't have to be forced to do what's in their own best interests if it is patently obvious that it is in their own best interests. Really? I know people who are aware that stopping their smoking habit is in their own best interests, yet you have to practically force them to do it. I know people who are aware that eating less, fattening food is in their own best interests, yet you have to practically force them to do it. I know people who are aware that exercising is in their own best interest, yet you have to practically force them to do it. I know people, okay, I'm going to agree with you in part, It's true that not everyone automatically does what's in their best interest. Maybe even not the majority of people. But I believe that a critical mass will. And when the first domino falls, the rest will follow. That's a lot of people you're going to have to convince. Critical mass is a lot of people. Actually, not as many as you might think. I'm told that critical mass is not 51% of any whole, nor is it 25%, nor is it 10%, nor is it even 5%. Critical mass, in some cases, can be achieved when something between 2.5 and 3.5 of the whole is affected. If you want to see this demonstrated, watch a pot of water come to boil. Half of its surface is not boiling when the water reaches a boiling point. Not even a quarter of its surface. Just watch the water. As it heats up, you'll see a bubble here, a bubble there, maybe 3 or 4% of the surface showing bubbles. Then, whammo, the whole surface breaks out. You've just witnessed critical mass. So we're not talking about 3 or 4 billion people here, or even 1 billion, or even 500 million. The wonderful outline source, Wikipedia, tells us that social factors influencing critical mass may involve the size, interrelatedness, and level of communication in a society or one of its subcultures. The reference also notes that small changes in public consensus can bring about swift changes in political consensus. We know that to be true. We know that a global undertaking such as the Conversations movement can bring humanity to a tipping point. We're confident that when sufficient numbers of people begin to contribute to the co-authoring of our new story and begin to talk about it, there will be a shift in the morphic field sufficient to produce global resonance around the observation that our old cultural story is simply no longer working, and that the creation of a new cultural story is a very, very good idea. It was Rupert Sheldrake, an English biochemist and plant physiologist, who first proposed such a thing as a morphic field. His books and papers stem from his theory of morphic resonance and cover topics such as animal and plant development and behavior, memory, telepathy, perception, and cognition in general. A global undertaking such as the Conversations movement can bring humanity to a tipping point. His publications include A New Science of Life, 1981, 7 Experiments That Could Change the World, 1995, Dogs That Know When Their Owners Are Coming Home, 1999, and The Sense of Being Stared At, 2003. And there's a Wikipedia link here. Basically, if you look up Rupert Sheldrake on Wikipedia. Sheldrake says that morphic fields bring about non-local effects in consciousness and learning. We're counting on that, exactly. We believe that the Conversations movement can and will produce just such exponentially expanding non-local events, or what I have called critical mass. You think so? I'm not so sure. I think you're underestimating the stubbornness of people to change. Not where their own best interest is concerned. Hang on. Not where their own best interest is concerned. We can achieve critical mass here. People driving around the traffic circle at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, where there are no lane markings, no traffic lights, no signs showing who goes first or where, no police officer to direct the endless flow of cars. They do not have to be forced by any law or regulation. to yield the right of way or to stop before smashing into others or to go when others have stopped. They do so automatically. That's different. You're talking about survival there. We're talking about survival here. Let me show you something really interesting. Globally syndicated commentator Thomas L. Friedman wrote in an op-ed piece on June 7, 2011, entitled "The Earth is Full." Read this, it's very clear, and it explains exactly what I'm talking about here. "The Earth is Full" by Thomas Friedman. You really do have to wonder whether a few years from now we'll look back at the first decade of the 21st century, when food prices spiked, energy prices soared, world population surged, tornadoes plowed through cities, floods and droughts set records, populations were displaced, and governments were threatened by the confluence of it all. And ask ourselves, what were we thinking? How did we not panic when the evidence was so obvious that we'd crossed some growth, climate, natural resource, population red lines all at once? The only answer can be denial, argues Paul Gilding, the veteran Australian environmentalist entrepreneur who described this movement in a new book called The Great Disruption: Why the Climate Crisis Will Bring an End to the Shopping and the Birth of a New World. When you're surrounded by something so big that requires you to change everything about the way you think and see the world, then denial is the natural response. But the longer we wait, the bigger the response required. Gilding Cities, the work of the Global Footprint Network, an alliance of scientists which calculates how many planet Earths we need to sustain our current growth rates. GFN measures how much land and water area we need to produce the resources we consume and absorb our waste, including the prevailing technology. On the whole, says GFN, we are currently growing at a rate that is using up the Earth's resources far faster than they can sustainably be replenished. So we are eating into the future. Right now, global growth is using about 1.5 Earths. Only having one planet makes this a rather significant problem, says Gilding. This is not science fiction. This is what happens when our system of growth and the system of nature hit the wall at once. While in Yemen last year, I saw a tanker truck delivering water in the capital, Sana'a. Why? Because Sana'a could be the first big city in the world to run out of water within a decade. That's what happens when one generation in one country lives at 150% of sustainable capacity. If you cut down more trees than you grow, you run out of trees, writes Gilding. If you put additional nitrogen into the water system, you change the type and quality of life that water can support. If you thicken the Earth's CO2 blanket, the Earth gets warmer. If you do all these things and many more things at once, you change the way the whole system of planet Earth behaves, with social, economic, and life support impacts. This is not speculation. This is high school science. It is also current affairs. In China's thousands of years of civilization, the conflict between humankind and nature has never been as serious as it is today, China's Environment Minister Yahou Shenzheng said recently. The depletion, deterioration, and exhaustion of resources and the worsening of ecological environment have become bottlenecks and grave impediments to economic social development. What China's minister is telling us, says Gilding, is that the Earth is full. We are now using so many resources and putting out so much waste into the Earth that we have reached some kind of limit given current technologies. the economy is going to have to get smaller in terms of physical impact. We will not change systems, though, without a crisis. But don't worry, we're getting there. We're currently caught in two loops. One is that more population growth and more global warming together are pushing up food prices, raising food prices. Rising food prices cause political instability in the Middle East, which leads to higher oil prices, which leads to higher food prices, which leads to more instability. At the same time, improved productivity means fewer people are needed and in every factory to produce more stuff. So if we want to have more jobs, we need more factories. More factories making more stuff make more global warming. And this is where the two loops meet. But Gilding is actually an eco-optimist. As the impact of the imminent great disruption hits us, he says, our response will be proportionally dramatic, mobilizing us as we do in war. We will change at a scale and speed we can barely imagine today, completely transforming our economy, including our energy and transport industries, in just a few short decades. We will realize, he predicts, that the consumer-driven growth model is broken, and we have to move to a more happiness-driven growth model, based on people working less and owning less. How many people, Gilding asks, lie on their deathbed and say, I wish I had worked harder or built more shareholder value? And how many say, I wish I had gone to more ball games and read more books to my kids, taken more walks? To do that, you need a growth model based on giving people more time to enjoy life, but with less stuff. Sound utopian? Gilding insists he is a realist. We are heading for a crisis-driven choice, he says. We either allow collapse to overtake us, or we develop a new sustainable economic model. We will choose the latter. We may be slow, but we're not stupid. A version of this op-ed appeared in print on June 8, 2011, on page A23 of the New York Times under the headline, The Earth is Full. You see it? It is like those drivers circling the Arc de Triomphe. They may be slow, but they're not stupid. Points I hope you'll remember. Our species is begging for a new way of being human. The potential of a collaboratively created new cultural story to produce individual joy and group peace will become self-apparent. A global undertaking such as the Conversations movement can bring humanity to a tipping point. People are not stupid. They will not allow collapse to overtake humanity. Action I hope you will take. Help create critical mass around a new story for humanity. Join the Conversations movement by going to www.theglobalconversation.com. Help to write the new cultural story, then help to spread it. End of chapter.
Well, that was kind of giving me chills during the reading of it because, less shopping, blah, blah. I mean, I feel like the crisis is upon us with the COVID thing. But I also am not quite sure about the thing about we're not stupid. speaking as an American with our particular government at this time. And, you know, the insistence that has been going on for a really long time, not just with the last president, just got worse with him, but of ignoring reality. You know, now it's like on steroids. So I hope he's right and we're not stupid and we won't allow everything to collapse. So far, I'm still waiting for the evidence as we watch, you know, our country, the West, burning and everything. So that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Hey, I just want to say welcome, Ann. Derby.
Thank you. And I want to say welcome, Anne Lore.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry to make this joke, Anne, but I
You're
want to
muted,
tell
Anne.
you I'd like to be your friend because now you're rich. You're on mute.
You're muted, Anne.
There we go. Oh, now I'm off video. Wait. Okay, I'll get it one of these days. Hi.
Nobody else has anything to say about the reading? I thought it was pretty intense myself, but
I did too. I love the morphogenic field. I think what's happening today is you're seeing a lot of that taking place. There's so many groups because of the internet that are being formed, and each one grows richer and richer because of the morphogenic field. It's almost like it feeds itself to breed. It's a very powerful thing. Oh, and if you haven't looked up Rupert Sheldrake's thing about dogs watching their owners come home and stuff like that, you should. It's really quite funny.
Oh, thank you, Anne. That was, I knew that I was just going back through the chapter looking because there was something that I had in my head. Yeah, for anybody that's not familiar with that story, the basic summary of it is this. Dogs, Rupert did an exercise, an experiment where they studied this. And what he discovered through this study was that a dog that's at home waiting for its owner will do things like the minute the owner gets up from their desk at work and starts the process of coming home, the dog will get up and go to the door and start watching. So that's just one example of it. So what that tells us is that there is a place where we can be, where all knowledge is available to us. Because there is no such thing as time. So in any given moment, you can tap in to that, what he called the morphic field. Rumi called it the field. You can tap into this field and you're connected to everything. So, and I'll give you a personal example of that. And some of you may have heard this story already, so I apologize if you've heard it already. But the night of September 10th, 2001, I was at friend's house. My husband was gone, and I had gone over there just to hang out in the evening for a little while with them. And somehow we got into a conversation about LA and earthquakes, California and earthquakes. And we were talking about LA. And out of my mouth came the words, well, you know what, I wouldn't want, you know where I wouldn't want to be right now? I wouldn't want to be in New York City. And everybody looked at me because it was like a complete non sequitur. Like, we're talking about California, we're talking about Los Angeles, we're talking about earthquakes. And earthquakes are not something that is very common in New York City either. And yet, here I am, all of a sudden, I had a very distinct feeling that if you were in Manhattan, you didn't want to be there. Because of the bridges, and I said, I don't know, it's the bridges and the tunnels, you'll be trapped. And we went back, you know, and it just sort of like, oh, whatever. We went back to our regular conversation, and then everybody woke up the next morning. So somehow I tapped into that. I don't know why. I don't know even how, but if I'd been in New York City that night, I would have left. I know that. I know that the field was telling me that much. So that's just one example. Over.
There's another thing called heart math, HEARTMATA,
Yep.
which monitors heart coherence.
Right.
And they have things all around the world and everything, and they've been able to document the heart coherence before a big event like 9/11 or something like that. It shows up in the field that something went awry before there's a lead up, before that incident happened. So like now they'll go back, they know that this happened then, and they'll look at it and they actually can measure the difference in that our hearts actually feel this before something actually happens as a group.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah.
I had a funny experience with the morphic field a couple of times because I used to edit short story collections. And so it would have a theme like a bad girl Christmas or something. And then you'd get in these stories, and it was like there were these threads that were almost exactly the same throughout these stories. And it was like this one would have one, and this one would have another, and this one might have two of them. And then there was a story that would have like all three of the tropes that the other ones were using. And it was not really predictable in any kind of way that, you know, I mean, it happened with it happened with every story collection I edited. It would be like certain of the writers got on the same track. And it's the same thing like in science, sometimes that happens where two people are working on the same thing in different places at different times. And don't know, well, in the olden days, they might not have known that they were working on the same thing. Now everybody knows everything. But, you know, they come up with, or in other fields, people come up with the same stuff working completely separately in different areas. So there is, you know, that sort of the field, the collective, there is that energy up there that you can tap into. So that's just my kind of trivial example.
Yeah, and there's examples throughout science
Well, I can
where
also,
discoveries get made by different scientists in
but
different
I want,
places. Over.
I also feel you guys when I can't make it on Sunday and it's 2:00 and I know you're meeting, I can feel you guys. You know, we've been doing this so long that I really feel that there is a difference, that just the 8 or around, you know, that it's shown up every week. I really do feel that there is a difference, and it doesn't have to be big numbers. It just have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Over.
I also used to do laughter yoga in the park. There were two different spots, so two different trees. And it's like those trees are laughter trees. And people will go there and they'll feel like the energy of the tree if they don't really know what it's about. And they, you know, like they'll like tell someone, oh, it feels so nice here, you know, and it's because so many people over so much time have laughed in that spot. It's like this little happy spot.
Oh, that's interesting.
Anybody
Shabana,
else?
your video appears to be frozen.
No, I'm just enjoying the fact that poor Mary couldn't get any of us to be serious. So I apologize to you, Mary. I'm so sorry. I must have been close to your laughter trees.
Laughter is a blessing. Thank you for the blessing of this group and different mood it sets. Me too.
Thank you.
Nanette, you're looking a lot healthier and happier than usual.
Well, just because I've only got 2 more weeks.
What does that mean?
I've been in a rehabilitation hospital for 14 months because I had a severe hip break.
Oh, God.
And yeah, it wasn't, oh God. And I am now in a process of moving all my, I'm not doing it, people are doing it for me, moving my stuff into a new place with an old friend of mine. And so I'm very happy that this little escapade here is almost over. There will be a book coming out shortly to tell
I
you
call
all the stories.
a light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank goodness, because I was ready to lose my last marble. But anyway, thank you for asking.
Thank God for your friends and your spirit.
Yes.
My hip was starting
Very
to bother me again.
Oh,
Oh, Bima's here too. Yay.
hi, Dima. Where? There she is.
Yeah, sorry I missed you because I had been away and I forgot it.
Oh, we'll let it go this time.
Yeah, sorry, because I thought I should come home and after it and then I forgot when I come home. Oh yeah, now I remember. So I hope you had, what chapter have you read?
We just finished 18.
18, okay, I will read it. Oh, I will listen. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
So, you know, the other thing I wanted to say about the earth being full and this idea that, you know, less shopping, less consuming, more being, it comes back to the basic understanding that we are the creators. And so if we would give up this notion that we need things, external things, and turn inward and use our relationship with divinity, we would discover that we are given everything we need. We don't need all this external stuff. It's a lot of noise. And so as we attempt to do what this chapter is talking about, which is to be, you know, the new conversation and bringing humanity to a tipping point, we have to do it by going inward and listening and not turning outward and not turning to these groups. You've got to be very careful. If you're going to align yourself with any group, you really need to make sure that it is a group of integrity. And I can tell you, many of them are not. And the reason, it's not a judgment, but the reason, the mechanism that's happening here is there are a lot of spiritual people. Marianne Williamson observed it this past week and was very upset about and questioning, like, how can this be there's a big movement of spiritual people that are sort of marching off into one of these conspiracy ideas. And the question is, how can you be spiritual and aligned with a conspiracy theory? You can't. That's the honest answer. You can't. Because the need to buy into any kind of a conspiracy is your ego. It's the ego of your housing. It is not your divinity. It is not God. God doesn't need to buy into conspiracy theories. God is in charge of everything. God is creating everything. We, as individuated aspects of divinity, are God in action. And so, if you are truly spiritual, if you are really founded in spiritual faith, none of these conspiracy theories would even appeal to you, because you would understand that everything is a function of divinity. There isn't anything here that isn't. And the need to label it or to categorize it or to judge it is a function of your housing, not your spirit. You're both. But if we're going to be the tipping point, we have to be the spirits bringing that love to the table, not human beings bringing judgment to the table. So there's a quote that I came across today that is, it's extremely powerful. I'm going to read it to you. Genuine humility is that which is not recognized as such by the one who has it. Do not try too hard to show your humility. The very effort exposes your pride. True humility lies in the absence of doership. The only implication of true humility is the utter absence of any entity either to be proud or not to be proud. What is the final bottom line of acceptance and surrender? That there is truly no me who can do anything. There really is truly no me. In the functioning of manifestation, there is no one that does anything. Nothing happens unless it is the will of the source, the will of God. This means the ego is an illusion. The sense of personal doership is also an illusion. This is the final understanding. Nothing happens unless it is the will of the source, the will of God. And that's a quote from Rameth Balsekar. Over.
Okay. I just got to know something. You know, we need to be empowered though, and so my understanding is that the body is fine-tuned. Our bodies are very, very amazing, amazing technology, but beyond, it's a human creation. This creation we are, that divinity can work through our minds, can work through us. And so we need to, I suppose what I'm saying is the intention to contribute rather than to consume, perhaps. Even if it's only a little bit, whatever, you know, like to have the intention of recovery. That would be a helpful and a holy thing, I feel, because we need to be active somehow. Thank you. That's what I can say.
I wanted to say something about what Linda was talking about, because like to me the reason why it can't be spiritual to be sort of obsessed with conspiracy stuff is because that stuff is feeding on fear and division, feeding on it and feeding it, fear and division. And spiritualness to me is about love and unity. And it just is taking us in a wrong direction from the plant that we're trying to grow, you know? And then that made me think of this quote that I saw from Vito Mucci, Linda knows who he is. And he said, like when a flower is starting to grow, if it's not growing well, you don't blame the flower, you blame the conditions, right? The soil, the water. You look for how to make it grow. But then also, if you don't want this flower to grow, you being certain forces of society that are happy with things the way they are and don't really want the kind of change we're talking about, then they can make conditions that are negative for the flower to grow. So like these conspiracy theories to me are part of that, part of what is thrown up to keep our little spiritual flowers from blossoming the way we could. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I like that.
Robert, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yes, I agree that we should be humble, but don't we also have a responsibility to be compassionate? And as you just said, some of the conspiracy theories are so hostile and aggressive and hateful that it doesn't seem very spiritually loving. An American identity of a better and stronger of America that I've grown up to learn and love. And it's
Excellent point.
very dangerous. Working on foreign policy, national policy, and spiritual policy, it's very retrogressive and very dangerous and negative. But we need hope and we need faith and we need all need God's help. I believe as a point of humility, and we're not all independent, and freedom, fun, and games hasn't produced such great results when we have such hostility and hate and dysfunction. Thank you for this group.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, Robert, I think you're spot on. A compassionate heart. If you have a compassionate heart, how could you align yourself with any of that other stuff?
Exactly. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. And God is unconditional love, right? That's what God is unconditional love. So we can love these people that are involved in these various things. And I think by loving them and holding space for them to awaken in the time that's appropriate for them is the best that we can do for them.
Hate their actions, but not themselves and their own body and soul, I think is what you're saying.
I don't think hating anything is, don't hate anything.
Well, I hate
ultimately,
the
there's
evil.
nothing wrong here.
I think there's something very wrong, and it's very cruel and very, they're destroying the country and destroying people's lives of all socioeconomic, and it's just unbelievable. Actually, the more you know, it's very uncalled for. Very, we really do need a different type of faith community that can work together in a more compassionate and consistent. And we need a nation. I work with the UN as well, and a multinational system which is coming up, where nations and people can work together with more compassion and reason and enlightenment of the spiritual realities as well. And don't we need a new spiritual reality of mutual respect and consideration that really starts with, I believe, our universal soul creator God, who's created us and given us life and opportunities. But don't we all need to work together better in this type of spirit and unity of a more loving nature, which I believe this group stands for. So thank you for this spirit and how
Thank you. And
different it is.
I'm going to cut you short here just a minute because we've only got 3 minutes left to do our spiritual experience. And remember, don't start talking till Shabana says it's over. So there'll be a moment of silence. Okay, take it away, Shabana.
Thank you. And I just want to start by saying it's not over yet. Lord God, how wonderful for us to read about the Declaration of Interdependence. It is a relief that finally, after the founding of the United States and after the Second World War and the United Nations, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, which is literally the grassroots rising up, and we don't want any lawnmowers. So we thank you now that the hearts of Linda and Nanette, Brenda and Sarah, Robert and Bima, Mary and Ann Lowe, and Darby and William, along with mine, are pooling their energy. We are powerful. Our planet has reached critical mass, and this group is determined to spread love, compassion, understanding, and the new story, because today we are demonstrating how life is meant to be. We cooperate and we listen to work together to build this new world. Thank you for creating it as we meditate now. Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shabana.
Thank you, Shabana.
So I put all those
And
links
thank
in the chat.
everyone.
Sorry, Nanette, I didn't mean to talk over you. So there's 4 links in the chat box to follow up on the earlier conversation that we had at the beginning.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay. Well, love you all.
I'm on mute. Can we,
Yep.
can you the
Thank
chat?
you.
a little longer so that we can get those links?
You should be able to just
Can
copy
you
them out
copy 'em?
and just highlight the whole thing and do a copy paste into your notebook pad or something.
I don't think you can do that on an iPad, but okay. It's okay. I don't really need all that.
I can email them to you if you want.
I do want to
Yeah, she.
recognize someone who isn't here today. I don't know, but my uncle, my father's older brother, Robert S. Benjamin, was the founder of the United Nations, and he was the first delegate of the United States to the
Wow,
UN.
that's amazing. I knew people who helped found it. One of the Eleanor Roosevelt's friends was first UN Universal Human Rights director. Molly
Yeah.
Bruce and her husband helped write the charter in San Francisco in 45.
So
It's a
there you go. That's
75th.
1 degree of separation between the two of you guys because you both know people that know each other. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, that is amazing.
That is.
I
So
disagree.
he passed, Anne? Is that what you were saying?
What?
Why did you bring him up?
I wanted to recognize his name and what he did since he was my uncle, and I knew this, and I'm really proud. But to know somebody that actually did something like that, or I don't know, I just wanted to speak his name, and
Beautiful.
you know, it's just coming from my heart.
This
Well,
is this is
no one goes anywhere. So he's
That's true.
Well,
Wainwright House, the oldest holistic education, had a Dag Hammarskjöld meditation room, and there's a meditation room at the UN, and the need to see reality and each other differently, more holistically, is part of that modern art, modern spirituality that it stands for. And this reminds me of the Barbara Hubbard Weaver's meditation group that I had worked with for many years. So thank you for the
Awesome.
spirit, keeping it alive.
awesome. And I'm proud to say I've meditated in that meditation.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
The-
All right,
Wayne-
everybody.
I was in that. I've been there too.
Cool.
The Dag Hammarskjöld meditation room at the UN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Love you all, and we will see you next week, same time. And Anne, I was glad to see you because I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So, and both Anns. So,
All Anne's.
all Anns. Okay.
All
Love you
hands
all.
on deck.
Yeah, all Anns on deck. Very funny.
There you go.
Oh, that's
We're surviving.
Yeah, okay.
So thank you.
all right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Love you all.
Love you back.